Hello, this is Keith Owens welcoming you to the Afro Fantasy Detroit podcast, a Detroit Stories quarterly production. Today I will be reading you part 10 of The Witch, and I hope you enjoy it. Little girl, are you sure there isn't anything else you want out of here? Because you can have anything you want, and don't worry about none of them. You can see they ain't moving, right? And they won't remember a thing about you or me once we're gone, and they pick up where they left off. But how did you hurt them? Maura laughed, then took 4 steps off the counter right onto the air, where she stood looking down at her friend with a look of amusement before slowly floating down beside her. Just because I'm a witch don't mean I like to hurt people. That's just the way they make it seem like in the movies. Come on, let's go. Wait, you're a girl, let's go. I'll explain all that later. All you need to know right now is that I'm your friend, and that I'm a good witch, okay? Anything I do is just to help folks. Sometimes I make mistakes, and okay, sometimes I get mad, but I'm way better at controlling my temper than I used to be. But as Donatella was to learn over the years, as their friendship blossomed into a true sisterhood, that wasn't exactly true, which meant she had to work hard to convince herself that it was true, because Maura had saved her life, which meant she owed her, which meant believing Maura wasn't actually a sort of monster. As the two sisters made their way through the sometimes difficult years that followed, especially difficult for Donatella, who at a very young age suddenly found herself raising herself together with the help of another very young girl, who had revealed herself to be a witch and therefore was unlike any other young girl or human being that Donatella had ever met. Sometimes, as much as she hated to admit it, she did miss her parents, as crazy and violent as they could sometimes be. But at least when she was living with them, she felt more normal. Not like some sort of vagabond with nowhere to call home, a situation which Maura seemed to thrive in, and couldn't quite understand why living in such a way would sometimes throw Donatella into one of her moods. Usually she could see it coming, like a storm cloud on the horizon, and she would simply exit herself from the abandoned house they had taken over and claimed as their own, which Maura had managed to decorate like a dollhouse palace on the inside, and take a long walk until she could feel inside that the clouds were lifting from her sister's troubled soul. But on this one particular summer day, Maura stared in frustration at her sister, feeling as if maybe Donatella was becoming a bit spoiled, especially after she had tried to do for the girl all these years, liberating her from those crazy parents, giving her a place to stay, always making sure she never had to go hungry and had decent clothes to wear. The one she sometimes called little girl would never have made it out here in the wilds of the city without Maura's street smarts and her magic. And so, as Donatella sat there in silence on the floor, legs crossed, her delicate fingers twisting and then untwisting her locks, Maura made the decision that today would not be another long walk. Today, things were going to change. Today, she was going to make Donatella see just how good things could be for two outcast sisters like themselves. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this reading of The Witch, Part 10. I hope you'll join me again next week for Part 11. This is Keith Owens signing off, and remember, you can read the entire story of The Witch from beginning to end at my Substack, Afro Fantasy Detroit, which is a Detroit Stories quarterly production. Feel free to visit our Detroit Stories quarterly website at DetroitStoriesQuarterly.com, where you can catch up on all of our Detroit Stories quarterly magazine issues. See you next week.